Gnostic Informant, thanks for coming on. Appreciate you taking the time to have a conversation with me. Would you mind telling us a little bit about yourself before we get started?
Yeah, my name's Neil. I have a channel called Gnostic Informant. It is a channel that I started a little less than 2 years ago. It was maybe about a year and a half ago. After I left the church, I was a Christian. I was kind of a conservative, fundamentalist Christian for a while. And I started to lose my faith, started studying my way out of that. And, I found channels like Derek's Myth Vision channel really inspired me to do my own kind of thing with that. And so I started making this channel. My first video was about why I left the church. And then I started bringing on a lot of academics and scholars and asking them about religion, Christianity, comparative mythology stuff. Became a mythicist for a while, and was convinced by Richard Carrier. Went down that rabbit hole for a little bit. Then realized I was kind of in the fringes because started talking to academics about why they're not mythicists, and all these arguments started making sense. And I'm like, okay, I moved away from that.
Modern Day Debate actually offered me to debate Carrier on Jesus' existence, and I was posted it on Twitter for people to give me advice on where I can find the methodology of history. And Captain Dadpool sent me your video, the one where you debunk Carrier on for 3 hours or whatever. Really long video.
yeah.
It was a great video, by the way. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
And so I wanted to talk a little bit about that, if you don't mind. So could you tell me backstory, what led up to it, what was your inspiration, that kind of stuff, and what was the most critical points that you found were?
Yeah. Well, the reason why I started that video was I noticed that Richard Carrier and this is actually, people might think this is a dumb reason, but this is just the honest truth of it. I was watching a video that Carrier and Godless Engineer did, and it was supposedly dunking on this other academic named David Litwell.
The martyrdom and ascension of Isaiah, there's a lot of misinformation out there, but this is a fairly easy, accessible text, and I'll just kind of help your viewers know the resources. So
now, this is what Carrier does throughout this entire 2-hour video, is he just laughs and says, that is not true. And then John just picks up on his signals and just laughs along as if they're checking something. And he literally just said, this is very accessible work. Carrier said, that's not true. I'm holding in my hand right now James Charlesworth, pseudepigrapha. This is standardized text. This is what you would get in college. It has all the manuscript evidence for the ascension of Isaiah in here. Who's a decent academic, in my opinion. He's a good friend of mine too. And they were it was like they were putting the microscope on every word he said. If he said something half wrong, and he's in a live stream setting, in a very laid back setting. It's not like a peer reviewed debate or anything. This is not so he's just hanging out with somebody on a live stream for a couple hours. So of course you're going to say things that are going to be check the book on that. Check the book on it. So they did a 4-hour video, supposedly dunking on this guy. And in my personal opinion, it was embarrassing. It looked like people who are mad because, backstory, David Litwell has written some things about Carrier and is very critical about Carrier's scholarship. And so Carrier obviously doesn't like him. And Godless Engineer, anyone who Carrier doesn't like, Godless Engineer doesn't like. It's just, that's just the way it is. So they did this video, and I just was watching it, and I was like, do they actually think this is convincing? And I just remember being all right, I want to do a video showing some of the dumb shit they say, because if they think this is the deadliest sin ever, of some of the stuff that David Litwell was saying, which wasn't even that big of a deal, they think that's bad. Why don't we put a light on what they're saying? Some of the Godless Engineer in one of his videos said that Philo of Alexandria believed in an angel named Jesus before Christianity. Spoiler alert, that's not true. It's nowhere to be found. We have books of Philo that are preserved till today. He doesn't say shit about an angel named Jesus. He talks about a logos. Okay, we can go there. We can talk about that. There's a lot of similarities. Obviously, Christians are drawing from Philo. Everyone knows that. It's not like some only mythicists know that. No. Everyone knows that. Everyone agrees on that. If you are going to debate Carrier on mythicism, the thing that he just doesn't have an answer for, because there's no evidence of, is this pre-existing. And he says this in his video. I did a video. Let's just go down the lore a little bit. I'm getting ahead of myself. Let me just slow down a little bit. So after that video came out, Carrier wrote a blog, and obviously he, was very unhappy with the video and had some things to say. Well, Derek's kind of a peacemaker, Derek Lambert of Mythvision, and he suggested that me and Carrier should get together and do a live and talk it over, and let's duke this out and be fair and honest, and let's see who's right about what, but let's be polite and get to the bottom of some of this stuff. I'm like, all right, deal. So we went live, and he's calling me. He's saying that I'm insane. Like, he's like, really. What made you think I was having a mental breakdown?
It looked unhinged, and it was so far off base that my initial response is, I don't need to respond to this, because anybody who knows what they're talking about knows that, like, this is crazy. Like, what is he doing? My most charitable interpretation of that is not that you're like some sort of liar out on a campaign, but that you must be having, like, you were drunk or having a mental health breakdown or whatever. You got really emotional and then got careless.
Well, it wasn't just like the gaslighting was through the roof, and I knew it the whole time, but I just kind of let it happen with whatever. I'm not gonna like let him get under my skin while I'm live. Like, I'm just like, okay, whatever. Anyways, he made this point where he said that I misquoted his ideas on Philo. He's like, I didn't say any of that stuff. I made it clear that Philo doesn't actually mention this angel, but we can pull from Philo and find that he might have thought this. Okay, that sounds way different. Let me go back to the videos, because he goes in front of these atheist conventions, but he used to until he got kicked out. He used to go in front of these atheist conventions and speak as if he's like an authority on this stuff, and he would just spew nonsense in front of it. I think he knew that his audience was like this. It's the same dynamic of like a pastor in front of a church. Like, most of these atheists just want to hear that Jesus doesn't exist. No offense to atheists, but like a lot of them just want to hear that stuff. So he knows he has that over his audience. So he's just completely abusing the sources, the text, the data, and just going on. And so I go back to these videos. I'm like, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe he did say it better. I could be wrong. Let's look back. And it turns out not only in that video that we were discussing did he actually say exactly what I thought he said. He did that in 7 other videos, including an 8th video that I found where he says that it is scholarly consensus, an undeniable fact. I'm quoting him verbatim. He said it's an undeniable fact that there was a Christian cult before Christianity that worshiped a Jesus angel. He tells us in front of millions of people. Well, that video got like 1 million views, maybe 500,000 views. Somewhere, let's just say a lot of views in front of this convention. So I pull these clips out and I make a little collage for Facebook. I didn't even put it on YouTube. Made a short video for Facebook, put that up there. Then he said that I took him out of context there. Wrong. So then obviously his boyfriend, Godless Engineer, had to make a video and try to splice it up in a way where it try to make me look like I was like just barely cutting out certain things. But the stuff that he showed that I was cutting out was like, Philo grew up in Israel, it was like outside information that had nothing to do with what Carrier was trying to say that I was taking out of context. And I was just like, I can't believe that this is mind-blowing that people actually are, that they think this is commit. So anyways, I made a second video responding to that. But back to your question. The big thing that Carrier, and this is the reason why people don't take Carrier seriously. It's not that he's questioning the sources on how Jesus is, there's no sources that he didn't write anything down. It's not that there's no contemporary people that are like, hey, I live next to Jesus. We don't have any physical evidence of Jesus. That's not what people are criticizing Carrier for. It's the fact that he's pushing this narrative that there's a pre-existing Jesus tradition that predates Christianity. That's nonsense. If anyone's going to debate him, you just go focus right on that, because he has no answer for that. There's no evidence for it. He'll point to a text that's in the late 90s, Ascension of Isaiah. And then you'll say, but wait a minute, you're the one saying we can't use the Gospels as evidence because they're so late. Why are we using the Ascension of Isaiah? Some people say it's in the 2nd century. Some people, a lot of scholars think essentially it's 2nd century text. Why are we using? You're just going to cherry pick the sources that you think are good, and then deny the ones that you think are bad and call them late. That's a double standard right there. You can't do that. So that's one of the things that I would be mainly focused on if I was going to debate. Like, Carrie, where's your angelic Jesus at? It doesn't exist. Just admit that.